Guys, TechRaptor back at Gen Con 2019, and I am with Heath of Panda Cult Games, and they are showing off a prototype of their upcoming Shovel Knight board game.
Yep.
This looks awesome. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really excited about this. If you guys are familiar with the video game at all, this is basically our way of putting it onto a board. But the funniest thing about the video game is that it's got a co-op mode. In the co-op mode, you're playing together, but you've noticed pretty quickly you can knock your friend into a pit and then he loses half your gold. So you're like, what's the point of this? At the end of the level, you discover there's a winner and there's a loser. So we thought that was hilarious, that literally you can knock your friends into pits and knock them into enemies, steal their gold. So we're like, why isn't this a board game? Why isn't it? So then all of a sudden we started developing the idea. We pitched it to Yacht Club, they loved it, and then we put it into development and started getting Shovel Knight Dungeon Duels. So this is a 1 to 4 player competitive side-scrolling dungeon crawl game. So we're going to be going through some of the familiar levels like the Plains of Passage and Pridemore Keep. We're going to be fighting against one of the bosses, one of the Order of No Quarter, which is going to be King Knight. So at the beginning of the game, the way we choose who goes first, we actually get whoever played Shovel Knight last or dug a hole last, either physically or metaphorically. So, in this case, let's say theoretically it's Blue Knight's turn. It's fine. So, let's say it's Blue Knight's turn and we're at the beginning of the game. Typically how this goes is that each player goes in turn and it goes round robin, and then the enemies will go after that. So let's say theoretically the three things that you can really do in this game is you can attack enemies, you can jump over pits, and you can attack other Shovel Knights. It's not the most chivalrous thing to do, but you can't cause damage, but you can knock one around. You guys will see how that kicks into gear. So let's say first things first, Shovel Knight here, blue, wants to go and attack this Bone Clang. Again, familiar enemies from the game and familiar levels. First thing we're going to do is use one of our 3 actions, 1 action, 2 action, to move into this space. Now, cool thing is that we found a treasure token. Treasure tokens in our game, it's like in the video game itself, you dig them up and you can get certain rewards. But in the video game, in the board game, we actually have different versions of this. So you can get gold, you can get gems, but you can also potentially pick up a relic. So, you'll notice that you have a treasure chest token here. So what we're going to do is go over to our relic pile, and we're going to drop the top card. It looks like we found the Flare Wand. So the Flare Wand is actually a range 4, so it's a range and attack 4. It's all models in a single space. So these are actually familiar items in the game that you can buy from the Glorious Chester. Works a little bit differently in our game, and I'll get into that. So this character would end up getting the Flare Wand, and they'd be able to use it as a unique one-shot item on their turn, and then they have to discard it. But let's say instead of that, Shovel Knight wants to attack this Bone Clang. So he has got an attack stat of 3. So I'm going to take 3 of our dice, and of course, it being Shovel Knight, this successful attack symbol is shovels. So I'm going to roll 3 dice, and it looks like I got 2 shovels. Well, Bone Clangs have 0 defense, 2 HP, so 2 successes, 2 damage. This Bone Clang is down, and all enemies are worth gold in this game. That's the point. You're trying to get the most gold other than the other Shovel Knights to prove you are the truest Shovel Knight actually in this scenario. Because if you ran into 4 copies of yourself, you want to prove, hey, I'm the real one. So, he ended up getting 2 treasure. We're going to take 2 treasure from our gold pile here. We're going to add it to our actual character. So guess what? Blue Shovel Knight is now officially in the lead and his turn's done. But let's see, so he moved and he attacked. Let's say another Shovel Knight doesn't like how that just went down. He doesn't like that someone's in the lead. What he can do is shuffle over here, 1 space, and then he can attack his fellow knight. Works exactly like attacking an enemy, it's just that the other knight has a chance to defend. So let's roll an attack and see what happens. All right, so we got 2 successes. That's pretty good. Let's see if the other Shovel Knight can defend. Oh man, he absolutely defended it. But let's say, to just show an example, he did not. What ends up happening is if you attack another knight, you can push him 1 space. And it being Shovel Knight, of course, there's spike pits strewn throughout the level. What happens when you fall into a spike pit in a classic side-scrolling game? Can you tell me?
You die.
You die, period. And in Shovel Knight specifically, you lose half of your gold. So green just knocked blue into a pit. Blue's out for this round, drops half his gold in that space, and guess what? That's on the board. That's for anyone to collect now. So there's a certain backstabbing element to this. Now let's say it turns into Yellow's turn. Yellow likes that gold there. He wants to check out what's going to happen. He's going to spin an action to try and jump over that spike pit and steal that gold. So let's see if he's successful in doing it. So I'm looking for the up arrow. So typically you're going to be looking for this symbol right here. So 2 up arrows gets him 1-2 spaces across that spike pit, which is amazing. But unfortunately in that roll, that is not what I rolled at all. So what ends up happening if you fail a jump roll, just like in a video game, you misjudge that jump, he falls in that spike pit, he loses half his gold, and then that pile starts getting bigger and bigger. So it's a competitive, kind of backstabby side-scrolling game. Now, I keep saying side-scroll. It may sound a little confusing, but I'm about to show what that means. So after that, after heroes go, enemies are going to try and attack our heroes. Now, they're going to have to try and get into the same space as a hero to be able to attack them. It's very simple. They're going to have attack. You're going to have to roll your defense against it, but the enemies are going to be a constant threat as you're going forward. All their stats are automated. Their movement is automated, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, when you get to the end of the round, here's what's going to end up happening. So, all players have gone, all enemies have gone, so this is the magic that happens. You take the farthest left tile on the board, and you actually shuffle that off into the void. So guess what? Red Knight, he's gone. He's out for this round. These tiles shift over, and then next round we take a tile from the top of our tile deck, slide that on, and guess what? We got a brand new tile that we're showing in here. So, we got some skull symbols, so that means anytime we see a bone-playing skull, we're going to draw a card from our spawn deck, and then we're going to flip over the top card to show what's going to happen. So, here, we've got 2 bone planks. So what that means is that we're going to take 2 bone playing models from our model count, put them over here, bam, we got new enemies onto the board. Not to mention, we also have these treasure tokens. We need to put these onto the board as well. Guess what? Setup for that round is done. So now, first player shifts to the next person, and they're going to spawn back onto the board on one of these open tiles and start moving along. So that's just to show the basics of a round. So you can use relics on your turn as one-shot items, you can backstab your enemies and your friends and push them into spike pits, and you're trying to get the most gold, and sometimes you can actually run into buying equipment from our character Chester here, which you spend 1 action, costs 1 gold to actually buy an equipment piece, which actually changes your base stats. So here we've got the final guard. So this adds +1 defense. So this isn't like a relic card where it's a one-shot. You actually get to equip that to your character for the rest of the game. You have +1 defense for all the rest of your rolls, which is pretty fantastic. So after your character's going through this dungeon, beating up enemies, trying to get the most gold, once you run out of dungeon tiles, what ends up happening is you are going to start running into your official boss fights. So if you don't know, Shovel Knight is it's basically like a fantasy Mega Man game. You're going to go through a side-scrolling dungeon, and you're going to be fighting a boss at the end of it. And what would a Shovel Knight game be without one of the Order of No Quarter? So, after you shuffle all the tiles off of the board, here we go, you are going to run into the boss fight. So the boss fight works a little bit differently. Instead of having a side-scrolling element, what we're going to instead do is spawn in the boss, spawn in our 4 heroes, and then one of them would take their turn. Let's say it's Blue Knight's turn. 1, 2, and 3. So he doesn't have enough actions to cause any damage to the boss, but let's see what happens. Bosses in this game are actually operated off of this AI deck. So what you're going to end up doing is drawing the top card and flipping it over, and you may notice that there's a 4x4 grid and a 4x4 tile. What that means is that all of these red spaces on the card here are going to get attacked by King Knight. So any of these models are going to get hit, which top row, far left row, you can see here 3 knights are about to get attacked. So he is going to attack like that, and then wherever his icon is where he ends up on the board. So this is one of 8 cards in this deck. After each hero goes, a boss is going to go. But the cool thing is every damage you deal to a boss, you actually get gold from it. But every damage the boss does to you, you're actually going to lose HP and gold as well. So the idea is that the end boss fight turns into this crazy last-minute cash grab. So whoever ends the boss fight and does the last bit of damage gets 5 gold, and whoever has the most gold at the end of the dungeon proves that they are the truest Shovel Knight. So these are just the basics of the game. It's a lot of fun, it's quick pace, it runs anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes for a normal scenario. Plus, if the Kickstarter goes well, like we're hoping it will, one of the first stretch goals is making the 3 bosses that are going to be in the base game who are from the Order of No Quarter, King Knight, Plague Knight, and Spectre Knight, they're going to be playable as heroes in the game. So instead of Shovel Knights competing, it could be Shovel Knight versus Plague Knight versus King Knight versus Spectre Knight. They all have their own unique stats, their own unique abilities. We're really excited about the concept about it. So this is coming to Kickstarter on August the 13th. We're really excited about it. We've got a lot of new videos coming up. We're going to show new gameplay, and we're actually going to introduce, so this is the 3D version with the models. We're also going to introduce a 2D version. That's going to come with standees at a little bit more of a fair price point for video gamers who are coming in and don't quite know the board game market as well as we do, which is perfectly fine, I understand. So we're going to have the 3D version with models and a 2D version that's a little bit more cost friendly. So that's what we're going to end up doing.
Shovel Knight looks awesome. If you're as excited to pledge for it as we are, look for the Kickstarter on August 13th.